Test 4. This is the IELTS listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to part 1. Part 1. You will hear a student calling a landlord to rent a house. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hello.
Oh, hello. I wanted to inquire about the house you're going to let out. Is it still available?
Yes. May I ask where you heard about it? Was it in an advert?
Right, it was.
OK. What do you want to know?
Well, I'm going to share the house with 2 friends. We've been staying on campus, but we're going to graduate, so we need to find a house as soon as possible. Anyway, could you tell me the exact date when you can move in?
Well, the contract with my current tenant is due next week on May the 3rd, and I need a day to clean and check the things in the house. So I think the house will be ready on the 5th of May. Is that OK?
Yes, that will be fine. And what we're most concerned about is the rent. We'd like something around $500 a month for each of us, but we could go up to $600 if we have to, but we can't go beyond that.
You are lucky. The rent will be $1,700 in total, which is within your budget. You'll need to pay monthly to me by cash or credit card. I don't mind. And you'll have to pay me $1,500 as a deposit before you move in. The deposit is as insurance in case you break something.
OK, that's reasonable.
Oh, I nearly forgot. One important thing is that you'll be required to provide a credit check to guarantee your ability to pay the rent every month. This will charge you $15.
No problem. How about the facilities?
First, there are 3 bedrooms combined with 2 bathrooms. Then there is a shared kitchen which was refurbished several months ago. By the way, do you cook yourselves?
Yeah, we like cooking. Do we have to buy our own cookers?
Basic facilities for cooking are available, but if you want a dishwasher, I'm sorry, it needs to be added later.
I think the basic facilities are enough for us. Is there any place we can park, as one of my friends has a private car?
Yes. There is a garage which not only provides space for your car, but also has a special section where you can do some of your work. It's very quiet for you to concentrate.
It sounds so special. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
There are some other utilities I have to tell you. There is a garden in front of the house in which you will find some interesting plants and beautiful flowers.
Do we have to take care of these plants and flowers?
Well, you don't have to worry about that. There will be a professional gardener to do the landscaping in the garden regularly. But you do need to help water the grass once a week. Is it a problem for you?
Of course not. We'd like to do that.
Another thing is, in this district, every household is arranged with a cleaner responsible for cleaning up the rubbish and recycling. But this service will cost you $15 every month.
What other bills do we have to pay?
Bills for electricity, water and gas will also be covered by yourselves.
OK, one more question. Is air conditioning available in the house?
If you mean central air conditioning, I'm afraid there isn't at the moment, but each room has a conditioning unit which is installed on the window.
That will be fine. Anyway, I think it's a good place to live in. Can we go and see the house, please?
Yes, of course.
May I have your name and phone number?
Yes, I'm Sam Dresler. That's SAMDRESSLER.
OK, Sam Dresler. I've got that down.
And my phone number is 6753-4571.
Thank you very much. I'll contact you after discussing it with my two friends.
No problem. Bye.
Bye. That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1.
We'll hear part of a radio travel program about a tourist resort called Stanley Island. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Welcome once again to the show where we give you travel tips on popular tourist destinations in the Pacific region. And today, our focus is on beautiful Stanley Island. Now, before we get started, a word of warning. The seaplane service to the island was discontinued last week, so for the next month at least, the sole link to the island is provided by the Old Ferry service, since plans to run a hovercraft service to the island have been delayed. So what is there to see and do on Stanley Island? Well, the main tourist areas are on the north, south and east coasts of the island. As far as recreation goes, in the south you'll find several leisure parklands such as Waterworld and Fantasy Island, which seem well equipped and reasonably priced. If it's golf you're after, the 18-hole course in the south of the island is currently being turned into a conference centre. But don't despair, there are 2 excellent courses just 30 minutes away on the east coast. The south of the island has many large resorts and hotels, with plenty of children's activities and clubs. This part of the island caters mainly for those seeking luxury to medium-class accommodation, but the east coast has basic apartment complexes with fully equipped kitchens, so that at least you can cook for yourself. For those who like to get back to nature, you'll probably find the south coast rather overdeveloped. The rainforest areas on the west coast are largely inaccessible because of the surrounding mountains, but those on the north coast are within easy reach, and a local agency runs guided treks through the jungle. If you're into water sports, all of the areas have something to offer.
Before you hear the rest of the program, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Now, here are a few bits of advice for those visiting the island for the first time, to make your stay safer and more enjoyable. The island is generally safe, but it's as well to take a few precautions. If you're on any medication, bring this with you. It may not be available on the island. And it's also a good idea for everyone to pack some insect spray in their luggage. If you're thinking of going into the more mountainous region in the west of the island, Let someone know where you're going. And remember, the reception for your mobile phone may be unreliable, so don't depend on that. Take your own water. Don't drink out of rivers. You're likely to come across lots of monkeys. They're cute, but watch out, as they can bite. Finally, when you're back in the more inhabited areas, take a break from steak and do try the local seafood. It's fresh and very good value.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have 45 seconds to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear a student, Millie, and her professor, Mr. Fraser, discussing medicine courses. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
So, Millie, you've scored very highly in your exams this year. You won't have any trouble being accepted into any course you choose. The most popular course available is clinical nursing. Will you choose that one?
No, Professor Fraser. I've thought about nursing, but I have decided against it.
May I ask why? With your skills, you could excel.
I'm concerned about the difficulty of the course. Apparently, it's not easy to get the diploma. Since I may not be able to complete the assignments, I feel apprehensive about starting a course I might not finish.
It's a shame you feel that way, but you have other options available. Have you thought about the surgical operation course?
Biology is a prerequisite for that course. I haven't taken that course yet, so I probably won't be accepted.
This year, we're offering some other alternatives during summer school. If you complete these courses over the semester break, you may have a chance. They are not that difficult.
I'm not willing to put in the effort it requires. Honestly speaking, I'm more interested in the personal interaction side of medicine. Are there any relevant courses I could apply for?
Certainly, sociology is beneficial, especially if you wish to further your studies in pediatric care. During the class, you will have the opportunity to work with people of all ages, but in particular, young ones.
What career prospects are there for me once I've completed the course?
Believe it or not, many students who complete the sociology studies go on to work in a different field. They find it a rewarding and fulfilling career to work with people who have disability and help them improve the quality of life.
I see. That sounds great. Thank you.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
I'm just not sure what I want to do with my life. What do you suggest? Would you recommend studying 2 courses at once so as not to limit my options?
Many people have done that, but it's difficult. Studying one course causes enough stress, and adding another course would be extremely challenging. You could try a different subject other than medicine, but I recommend you find the exact branch of medicine you want to study and put your focus on that.
The health and social care course is popular. Though I'm interested in this subject, I am not sure whether I should choose it. Are there enough grants for it?
Yes, I guess so. It has acquired a lot of financial support recently, so your research possibilities won't be limited. Also, I do know that Professor Rhodes has a good reputation. He's one of the most respected professors in his field.
Oh, yes. I've heard the professor is world-renowned, so I will definitely go for it.
All right. Then how about occupational therapy?
Well, my sister studied this subject last year. She says it's very difficult.
Perhaps it is for some students, but generally it can be easy for a student who majors in medicine. Actually, the textbooks used are published by our school, and the writer is a teacher in the medical department, so if a student finds them difficult to understand, he can get quick response from the teacher for clarification, which will be of great help in occupational therapy research.
That's really great. And I also heard that the textbook is quite easy to follow, but I'd prefer a hands-on career rather than combine myself to a research role, so I probably will think about other courses.
Whatever you choose, Milton University is the best school for you, and I highly recommend it. The lecture theatre is kind of old, but last year the Ministry of Education handed out grants to the top universities, and Milton was on the list.
What's been upgraded? I heard they developed a new medical facility.
Not really, but they are going to do that. Although they did spend a large amount of money on the existing medical department. The entire building was renovated and new equipment was purchased.
I'm still having trouble making a decision. Is there any information on this school's website?
Yes, and you will find some details you need to know there. Some people have found it useful to discuss with graduating students the benefits of studying their subject. But in terms of familiarizing yourself with the content of the course, you could do no better than talking with the tutor and getting to know him or her.
Perhaps I'll try that. It's not that I want to choose an easy path. I know that only through hard work can I excel in any field. I just have so much trouble making up my mind. I know there will be funding and scholarships available for particular courses, but I can't choose.
By all means, discuss your concerns with other teachers.
They're all quite busy, you know. I'll think about it. Thank you so much for your advice, Professor Fraser.
You are welcome. If you...
That's the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture about American salt marshes, which are areas of low land found near the sea. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Right. This morning I want to give you a brief introduction to a different kind of habitat, American salt marshes. And then we'll examine a particular inhabitant of the marsh, the horseshoe crab. Okay, so what are the defining features of a salt marsh to begin with? Well, salt marshes are found on the coast in various parts of the USA. They are really areas between land and water. Obviously, these are very wet areas, and the salinity, that's the amount of salt in the water, ranges from ocean strength to almost fresh. In other words, very low indeed. And the salt marshes are affected by daily changes in sea levels. The sea might wash in over them as frequently as twice a day, so the habitat is constantly changing. The amount of salt in the water rises and falls, as does the depth and warmth of the water. We'll be having a detailed look at the horseshoe crab in a moment, but marshes provide plentiful food for other creatures that feed there too, such as worms and shrimps. This food comes in the form of plants that thrive there. Interestingly enough, 200 years ago, the flow of water in marshland in the United States was controlled so that rice could be grown there. Little is grown there today, but 15% of coastal marshes are enclosed artificially in order to attract wild birds to the area, and we'll be examining those too. But before looking at the wildlife, there are a few political issues to make you aware of. There are always controversial issues when humans decide to make changes to natural habitats. During the past 20 years, many objections have been voiced to the building of artificial earth walls, or dikes, to use the correct term, on salt marshes to control the natural flow of seawater. Since the walls restrict the movement of high volumes of water, this means that the natural habitat of local aquatic life is reduced. And because the water is shallower, the temperature of the water may rise significantly during periods of low rainfall. In addition, although the insects are very happy there, many people are unhappy with the dikes. This isn't because they distract from the natural beauty of the landscape, but because their presence means it's more difficult for walkers who appreciate the marshes to go where they want. There is controversy over the different values placed on the resources of the marshes. Some people would like to see them used more fully for hunting, while others would like to see business permits granted to allow for further development. Interestingly, in the mid-20th century, marshes were not thought of as valuable at all, and over half of the salt marshes in the USA were destroyed at that time. In the main, this was due to filling the marshes to create more land for housing developments and to control the mosquito population. However, state laws now do reflect the importance and growing appreciation of marshes, not only as natural habitats, but also because they provide a natural barrier against storm damage, and therefore limit the amount of land lost to the sea. Right. We'll be debating some of those issues in the seminars, but let's now turn our attention to the horseshoe crab, which is the focus of our study this morning. Horseshoe crabs have changed very little in the last 350 million years. I find them interesting in many ways because they are, in fact, distant relatives of the spider, and not crabs at all. They look quite dangerous. In fact, they are absolutely harmless. The horseshoe crab's main diet is one of shellfish, but they will eat worms too. The crab places its food near its mouth, in the center of its underside where its legs are attached, and grinds and crushes it there. It has 5 pairs of legs. The female lays between 200 and 300 eggs and comes ashore to do that. This process takes place in spring, before the sand heats up in the summer months. Right. What I'm going to do now is show you some photos.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 45 seconds to check your answers to Part 4. That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.